there. I'm here today doing an interview with Arlene Espinoza, and we're going to be discussing her session for a QHHT session and what she experienced during that session. And she had a really amazing session, so I really wanted to get her on today to help share that story. So when Arlene came to see me, she had called me on the phone, and she said that her husband had been shot and killed in front of her in Mexico, and she just grabbed her children and left. And then also the other reason she wanted to come was because her son had been experiencing some visions and talking with people that were not there. And so those were some questions that she had and wanted to explore. So today we're going to talk about a lot of those. So when Arlene first came in, the first thing we do is we go into a past life. So Arlene, can you share with us your past life and what you experienced during that first part and what you were feeling during the process of the past life?
Well, that process was actually amazing because I had never done hypnosis before. I didn't know that it was going to be so vivid. I felt completely immersed in that other life, that other world, that other environment, everything from the smells, the weather, stuff brushing through my skin.
You could feel all of that.
All of it. Extremely vividly. It was literally like living it again. So in my past life, I was like a shaman. I was a spiritual leader for a group of people in what seemed to be like an island. It was not in like recent times. It seemed to be more of ancient times where there was not that technology. So most of my life I lived happily, and I loved my people, loved my land. It was like paradise and everything. It was great. Well, at one point I have to make a decision because I got from my spirits that there's going to be this huge storm, or it's kind of like hurricane, and it's just going to devastate everything. And we don't have the place that we have where we can keep people safe is very limited, and it cannot hold our whole population. So I give this message to the leaders and let them know that this is going to happen, and we need to prepare, and we need to, we've been giving this warning to give us time to prepare and choose how we're going to go about this. And they decide that since only part of the population, only part of the population can survive, then I have to choose who should survive.
Yeah, and that would be a tough decision too, huh? And you were feeling that.
I was feeling that.
About having to make that decision.
And the dilemma, right? I felt the love for everyone. I remembered all the connections and all the history that I had with all the numerous people that were there, and the kids and their parents for generations. It seemed like I had been there for many generations, and it was just a decision that I could not make. I felt torn, and I felt like it was unfair. You can't possibly expect me, to make this decision.
And I remember when you were going through that, how in despair you were, and you're like, I don't want to do this, and I could feel the emotion coming from you, how distressed you were.
Yes, and that
having to do that.
Yes, you have the brain and the heart clashing, and it just, there was no way that I could function enough to make that decision. So I decide that, because they want me to make this decision and I can't make it, obviously I'm not fit. And obviously I shouldn't be, leading them, and I shouldn't even be. I'm very upset that the universe put me in this position to begin with. And I go to the day that the storm is going to come, I go to the river to meet it so that I could basically drown and die through this storm. And as we're going through the session, it was just amazing how I could feel the cold. My teeth started
Chattering.
Yeah, my teeth started shattering, and I had the goosebumps all over, and I'm trembling, and I could feel the massive winds just pushing. I'm pushing against the walking forward, and the wind and the water, the water and the wind just like hitting my face, and like the sand eating up the skin on my arms, on my face, and it's just hitting me, and I'm wrapped up in this, in this excitement and fear and adrenaline, and like it's actually happening. So you pulled me out of there, but I was sure at that moment, I was sure I was gonna die.
Yeah.
I was gonna die. But then when you brought me out of that moment and we moved forward a little, I realized that I did not die.
Mm-hmm.
I actually came to, and the survivors after the storm had found me, I guess, laid out on the beach, and broken bones, and but they pulled me into the caves, and they tended to me.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we went to when I had finally passed through that life and was now, I guess, in the spirit realm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was my experience of my past life.
Yeah, so it was pretty amazing. So, but I do want to ask you, like, when you were in your in that past life or in your session, were you aware what was going on in your conscious mind? Because a lot of times we ask the conscious mind to step out of the way and allow you to have this experience, but what were you experiencing? What were you feeling?
Well, when I was in my past life, actually, I was in there.
Yeah.
Completely submerged. There was no conscious, and
Right.
it was.
You were living the experience.
I was living it completely. Yeah. It wasn't until after when kind of you pulled me out of there and said, okay, now let's move forward to after that life, and that's when it kind of split, and I was able to come out of that personality. Right. So then that's when I kind of and I actually remember that switch. That moment where I realized, like, oh, I'm here. I'm not there.
But her.
Yeah, I'm not there. That's right. Yeah. So at that moment I was completely submerged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the lifetime. But then after you came out of the lifetime, then you were aware of what was going on.
Yes.
And then we connected to the higher self, the divine part of you.
Right.
And as we connect to that part of you, you were aware of what the questions I was asking.
Right.
And you could experience like yourself be there answering these questions.
Right. Yes. And that was bizarre as well, because I thought some of these answers were bogus. Like, what the hell is she talking about?
Because you could hear your higher self giving the answers.
Right.
And you're like, your conscious mind is back there thinking, what? No.
No. Yeah, no. Or so where did that come from? And so that was very interesting as well. Definitely something I had never experienced before.
Yeah, and I like to bring that to your attention as listeners, because it's really important that you understand that as your energy vibration rises, you become more awake and more aware. And last year, when I was meeting with my counsel through one of my clients, I was told to tell my clients, congratulations, because if you are able to be aware while you're in session that your vibration has raised high enough that you can live in both worlds at the same time. So you can be connected to your higher self, but have your conscious mind, and just work with your conscious mind. And I always tell my clients, if your conscious mind starts to come through, just ask it to go take a walk on the beach, or, sit off on the right shoulder or something to stay out of the way, to allow the higher self or the divine essence part of you to come through. And because your energy is rising, you're able to do that these days. So pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. It was, you know.
And what I really want to do at this point is I want to ask, I want to ask you, how has this session changed your life going from that session forward? What's happened in your world?
Obviously, the general answer is I feel that was the decisive step that allowed me to move forward at all. Because in that state of depression and that state of, sorrow and not wanting to have anything to do with the world and not want, there was no desire to move forward. So without desire, you're not going to move forward. And I don't think I had the mental capacity to move forward either, because my mind, was in such disarray. And I just could not, put one foot in front of the other because it didn't make any sense. So that's a general answer. And the way it helped me do that was through my past life. I was able to understand my place, my purpose in this lifetime, my purpose in the world, my purpose in my journey, where I'm at in my soul journey. And it fit everything so perfectly, and everything made sense. Everything fit together, and it became the most beautiful story that I could again fall in love with my life. Especially knowing I came into the world knowing since I was a child that I was meant to change the world. I was here, and I was going to be part of the change of the world, and I knew it, and I didn't know how to tie that in. And thanks to my session, thanks to the knowledge of my past life, and that has helped me tremendously, just the knowledge alone. Another way that it opened the doors for me in my spiritual journey was the trust in my connection, right? And the trust in me knowing that I have the knowledge, because prior to that, I felt like there's all this information, I can't decipher it. There's all these theories and all these different versions and I just felt like I don't know what to believe. I don't know, am I going to put my trust, am I going to put my kind of money into, into some bogus theory that's going to turn out to be false, right? And do I really want to risk getting hell for all eternity? And so with the session and all of the events that came after the session that just proved all those things right and correct, it made me realize that I do have a connection. I do have a direct connection. I do know the answers. They are inside me. I can,
tap into them whenever you need.
Exactly. And I can trust it.
Yeah.
I can trust it.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is that most people do not trust the information. They doubt. And that is a huge obstacle that we're all overcoming right now, is the doubt that we carry because we've been suppressed for so long.
Right.
So it's really good that
we have all this junk that's been fed to us, that we regurgitate so naturally, and what we think we're supposed to be, what we think we're supposed to have, the 2.5 kids and the picket fence,
right.
All these things that are fed to us that should be important to us, where our soul, might think something else is important.
Yeah. And it's so great when we can connect to that soul essence of ourself, that God part of ourself, because you get these answers and they are so phenomenal. I mean, we should have magic in our life every day, and when you can start tapping into that part of ourselves, you see that magic every day. You see it every day.
Absolutely. And that was the part that was keeping me from moving forward in my life. I couldn't trust a decision that I made. I couldn't trust, my opinions, and I couldn't, my logic, and it, when you don't have that connection to source and you don't feel it strong within you, there's no way to move forward. That you don't know where to go. What's safe? Nothing's safe. And that was, I think, a tremendous part of my being able to actually want to live.
Yeah.
To actually want to live, to look forward to each day. And that's the third thing that I think really I got from the session, was the empowerment, the understanding that I wasn't a victim of the circumstances of the situation, of really being able to see the whole picture of what happened and understand that even though it was painful, that it was something that I chose. That it was something that I had to go through if I wanted to reach what I came here to do, which is help the world in healing. And I needed to I agreed and needed to come to those depths of despair, of kind of being disconnected and lost. Right. To be able to again find myself, to be able to transform these energies, and to be able to become whom I wanted to become, whom I came here to be. Yeah. Right? And through that, I was able to accomplish my goal for even coming here, which was to help transform those energies. So.
And I know when you were told in your session through your higher self what your purpose was, is to be the light, right?
Be the light, yes.
And so when you got that information, I remember having the conversation after, like, well, how do you be the light? What does that mean to be the light? Yes. And so that's what you discovered through, after the session, through all of this journey that you've been on, what that meant.
And the thing is that, I guess for anybody that's considering the quantum healing hypnosis, it's an amazing experience, but it is kind of cryptic. So you don't get, it's not a quick fix.
It's not like direct answers. They're going to tell you, do this, do that.
Right.
Because it is about the journey. And the journey is what we came here to do. And it's not about getting the answers, because if you got the answers, you'd have the answers to the test, and then it wouldn't be a learning. I mean, that's
not only that, because you can't learn, these are truths that need to be experienced. You can't know them intellectually. Yeah. I think a lot of the changes and a lot of, obviously, my growth and understandings have come in kind of, it's been like a progression, step by step. It didn't come all at once. I didn't have my session and say, I see it all. It's so perfectly clear, if anything. And I think most of it was my own resistance. I've always been very logical, very, I guess, left brain.
Which is a lot of clients. A lot of clients come in with left brain. And so you have to really step back and look at the information and allow yourself, that's huge, just to process.
Right. And the thing is that, I'm kind of, that's the process of marrying your brain and your heart, right? So that you could be multidimensional here. But that whole, I like the fact that my brain now can completely understand the logic and the, I'm 100% sure intellectually and spiritually that, again, of my place in life, of my place in my journey, of my past, of, there's no doubt. Before when I went to church, they wanted to say, oh, it's all faith and you have to depend all on faith and kind of just go blindly, right? And that's, I was always very uneasy with that. I don't like that. I like things to make sense to me. Right. And that's, again, what I got from the quantum healing hypnosis, that once I was able to work through my disbelief, right? Once all these different visions, dreams, random conversations, or I watched a show and it just confirmed some of the information that was on there. And little by little, the more that I saw these things manifest in my reality and show themselves, reveal themselves to me, and me make the correlations, and all these different experiences that all of a sudden I became open to, that just made the world magical again. It made me fall in love with life again and see its perfection and see its how amazing and harmonious and perfect it is at every second, at every moment. And
beautiful.
and there's, without all those realizations that came from that session, I don't think I could have gotten there.
Right. Perfect. So I want to know, what did you determine it means to be a light worker? What is it to hold the light? Because that's what you were told. You're here to hold the light. So what did you discover during that discovery it means to hold the light? And what are some of the things, the rituals that you do? Because I think that this is beautiful.
Yeah.
And I want you to share the story about the gentleman that you
honestly,
encountered.
it has been. I mean, life has turned magical. And quite clearly. So one of the things, obviously to be a light worker, for everybody is different. For me, I was placed, we found out through our session that when I moved to the city where I live, I was placed in the apartment complex where I live because I have a hill right next to it where I hike, a piece of nature where I go and I do a ritual that I was guided to do. This ritual coming through was a whole process. It took me months to come up with this ritual of what felt right, and it was taught to me step by step. So I would kind of master the first part of it and question it, right? I went through this process because, again, my brain is catching all this information, and then, for example, I go up to the hill and I was told I have to do 3 times around it, and I did it routinely. In fact, I started doing that before I consciously realized that I would just do it automatically, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, hey, every time I come up here I go 3 times around, right? Yeah. Then I saw this thing that said, oh, but you're not supposed to do anything counterclockwise, and I realized that I'm going around this hill counterclockwise, and that's like bad energy, right? So I'm thinking I'm doing it wrong, right? So there's my doubt, there's my conscious mind saying, don't trust it, right. you have to be doing something wrong, right? So then I went and tried to do it the opposite way. And when I tried to do it clockwise, I couldn't do it. I physically could not do it. I tried. I went around clockwise 3 times, but when I tried to come in to my circle, it had no entrance for me. I could not. It was like there's a energy barrier there, and it felt bad. It felt wrong inside. I was very discontent. Normally, after I had done my turns around the hilltop, I feel satisfied. I felt satisfied, felt empowered. I felt, you feel that energy surge. But this time I didn't feel that. I felt all wrong, all twisted, and I just had to, I couldn't. I even thought of going down the hill, but I couldn't get myself to. I needed to go back and do it, counterclockwise. I needed to go back, right? And I did, and so that was the first step, and then more revelations came to me, and then I would master that, and then another revelation would come to me, and so now I have this ritual that includes doing a vortex counterclockwise on the outside, coming inside, and doing one clockwise inside, greeting the elements, greeting the 4 directions. And it's, again, taken me a lot of time of every day, a lot of dedication, and a lot of, struggling with my own intellect and intuition to have this ritual that I've now, in my mind, perfected, right?
Right.
I had a few revelations of that where I was told that this is the complete ritual, and this is what I'm supposed to come and do, and this is how I light the tower, and I was placed there. Different people are placed strategically in different parts of the grid to do this work. And we're all doing it, and obviously it sounds great. It sounds very like romantic in theory, right? And obviously it makes me feel really good every day when I do it. But not long ago, I had this amazing experience, and these are the kind of things that are happening since our session abundantly, that just give you that proof that you're looking for, that your conscious mind, I guess, wants to know, is this true? Am I making it up, right? So as I'm walking and I'm doing my turns around the outside of the hilltop, I see a man come in. This is an older gentleman, and he's, a lot of people come in and out there. It's, open to the public. So he comes in and he goes to directly inside to the circle, and I didn't think nothing of it because everybody does. But then he started doing the circles, and I don't know why it came to my attention to observe him. As I'm doing it, I go slower. He's going fast, and I see 1, 2, 3. Now that's very odd. I've never seen anybody else
ever do
any circles around there, right? Ever. And so now this person comes in, he does the 3 circles around inside, so when he was doing his 3rd circle, I'm on my 3rd circle outside. So he's inside, we're going opposite directions. It comes to a point where we meet, and he gives me a high five. And the moment our hands met was just this burst of energy.
And my body is vibrating right now.
Yes, from the tip, from like my toenails all the way up to, like, I felt my hair, and this amazing feeling, and this, our eyes met, and it was this just feeling of, we're the same. We're doing the same, and how could this man, this stranger, be doing my ritual, and it was opposite, but it was the same steps, and he came, at that moment he comes outside and he does his 1 turn around the outside, and I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. How does he know to do that? And that just gave me confirmation that there are others. There are others out there that are be giving the same messages that I'm being given, that are carrying out the same work that I'm carrying out, that are, the same task, and it was just magical and amazing.
And something that just came to me now when you're saying that is because right now we're balancing the masculine and the feminine energy, and that was confirmation of that, because you're doing the feminine energy portion of it and he's doing the masculine energy, and the two of them come together and they merge. And I thought, that's just that's just what I get out of that. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. That didn't even dawn on me. I mean, it's just it was a confirmation in so many levels that I just didn't know what to do with myself. It just kept me on an ultimate, where I felt like I was floating on air, and it just, to walk through the day completely satisfied is an amazing feeling. And that's what I feel I got from my session with quantum healing hypnosis. It opened the door for me to be able to start the self journey, and with that trust, and even that we question ourselves.
We're human. So
yes, but it definitely, constant confirmations that came from that. Even now, over a year later, I'm still getting constant confirmations, that relate back to that session.
And so just to kind of tie up this portion of this interview, what messages do you have for people out there that are on this journey to become who they came here to be? Do you have any messages that you would like to tell people just to, get them on their journey?
Absolutely. There's a few. This is a journey. I guess the number one thing is be aware that it's a journey. It's not a quick fix, right? It's not a let me fix this real quick so I can get back to what I was doing, right? Expect your world to change, and also expect it to be, because it is a self-discovery.
It is.
And so that's, I think, the one of the most important things, but also that that it's worth it, and that you can do it, and it is within you, and you can trust your intuition. And probably one of the most important things that I've learned is that time alone, that time in observing one's self, one's thoughts, one's feelings, that's to be treasured. Yeah. Right, that's where all the magic happens, and because I can sit here and I can tell you do this, or this is what I did, or but what another person will awaken you will be different than what might awaken everybody else. So it's that self-discernment that is really valuable.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful, the whole process. So
it is.
And we all came here to wake right now. We all agreed to come here at this time in this place to help raise the vibration of the planet and to remember who we are, remember our greatness. So I would just want to thank everybody for listening to this part of the interview, and we are going to go into a couple more aspects of Arlene's interview or session, because she has some great pieces about her and her husband Dennis. So we're going to talk about those in part 2. And then in part 3, we're also going to talk about her son. So please join us on the other segments to her interview. Thank you.
Thank you.